This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's community access radio station Plains FM 96.9 and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
When the nights get cold and the lights go out, the sun is gone behind the clouds, and you feel lost, and I'll reach out to guide you home with my lighthouse. Oh, whoa, oh, whoa, I'll guide you home with my lighthouse.
This show has one mission: to give hope where hope is lost or fading fast. We're here for anyone that is affected by mental illness, their friends, their family, their employers, teachers, and anyone else in the community. Welcome to Lighthouse of Hope. I'm your host, Michael Hempseed. I'm so glad you're joining us today. Joining us on the show today, we have Danny De Heck. Danny, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And Danny, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
I'm 47 years of age. What else do I tell people about myself? I suppose
You've got a few businesses, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had a few businesses. A bit of a entrepreneur, as they say. Always looking for something different and interesting to keep my brain occupied.
And some of your hobbies or things that you like doing in your free time?
Oh, I love doing the mountain biking, even though we haven't got that lovely park up there to ride down. I never got an opportunity to go down that hill, unfortunately.
Hopefully they'll get that back up and running fairly soonish.
Yeah, another hobby I have, I enjoy target shooting. I've done that for about 5 or 6 years.
Oh, fantastic. Any times the arrows didn't go to the target or anything like that?
Oh, we don't talk about that.
We'll cut that bit out of the show, okay? Great. And now, Danny, why have you come here today?
You invited me because I have the gift of dyslexia, and I like telling people how to overcome obstacles in life using technology a lot of the times.
Fantastic. So first of all, can you tell us what was it like being in school with dyslexia?
Well, basically I hated school, and I just couldn't wait until I was old enough to leave.
Yeah. And did anyone pick up that you might have a learning disability at all or anything along those lines? Yeah,
I probably, I don't know, at the time the grading of schools weren't really that good, and I was in quite a high class. Yeah. And then they graded me, because I measured the lowest in the higher class, they put me in the sort of the reject class the second year. But they basically just thought I had a reading problem, so they put me in a special reading class and tried to get me to sound out words and syllables and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And before we go much further, can you tell us what dyslexia is, please?
Well, what people think dyslexia is probably an interesting question, because most people will just say it's reading and writing. But it's a lot more than that. It's pronunciation, being able to join in a conversation with other like-minded people. And I can't say a lot of words that I want to, and I can't express myself in the way I really want to.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, most of the qualities that you need to be able to manage in the everyday world are a challenge for you.
Yeah, it's everything. Even like finding a street, people will tell me, oh, it's Madras Street or Montreal Street, and I'll know they're one-way streets, but I won't know what end of the city they are, so I can spend ages. So I have to use GPSs all the time. I tell people I've got a memory like a goldfish sometimes.
Yeah. And I guess if anyone's been to a country where they haven't spoken English or haven't used English characters, that could be a little bit similar in that it's very, very difficult to find even basic information.
Funny that I went to Japan for 5 days, and I brought my flights early so I could leave because I couldn't read anything. I just couldn't communicate. It was like I lost all my faculties.
Yeah, I had a similar experience in China. I thought I was ordering chicken one night, and whatever I came back with was not chicken. So hopefully it wasn't dog. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about, say, when you left school. What was life like for you with dyslexia?
Well, the best thing the school ever did for me, they suggested that I went to a place called, excuse my pronunciation, I think it was Pitcaithley House. Yeah. And they taught me just some basic skills on how to conduct myself at an interview, how to look somebody in the eye, how to ask questions when you want a job, and just a lot of those sort of more, I don't know how to explain it,
some of the basic life skills?
Yep, life skills, spot on. So then I decided that with this newfound knowledge that I'd knock on people's doors and ask them if they'd be interested in hiring me to mow their lawns or do their gardening. And they would often say, how much do you charge? And I'd say, $10 an hour. And they'd say, that sounds pretty fair. And then I'd say, can I use your lawnmower? And so I built up a little wee business, just mowing lawns and digging gardens and sweeping drives and cleaning out spoutings. And that was the first time I actually really got a job which I felt like I could do and be quite competent at.
So even though you had quite a few challenges, you were able to make it work for you?
Yeah, I did. I always wanted to be a little bit of an entrepreneur. The problem is, any time I went for a job, they'd ask me for my CV or my experience, and my CV was nothing. I had no qualifications at all, so I just thought I was going to be stuck being a labourer.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you were 47, so obviously this was a few years ago. Was there much help out there for people with dyslexia back then?
I'd have to say no. I got a bit of a break. I got a qualification as a painter and a decorator. A family friend offered me an apprenticeship, and I'd been working in a supermarket for about 18 months beforehand, so I thought, right, here's a chance to get some form of qualification. So I did painting and decorating for 4 years, become a tradesman, and then after working for the same boss for 3 more years, I decided to go out in business on my own. And that was probably my real break in understanding how business works.
And can you tell us a little bit about that business and some of maybe the highlights and challenges that you experienced?
Yeah, well, the good thing about being in a partnership with another person is that they have strengths that I didn't, and their job was doing the writing and the invoicing and making sure the business was ran correctly, and my job was doing paint procedures, quality control, and making sure everything was done in that area, so we didn't really overlap on each other's strengths. And then what I realised in business, if you couldn't do something, you find somebody else to do what you can't.
And that might sound like a simple concept, but my experience of a lot of people in business is that's the thing that holds them back. They try and do everything themselves.
No, I definitely agree with that. It's just every obstacle, people take it for granted. I remember I had a small job driving a forklift in Maiko Wakefield. They were really nice to me, but then they said, you've got great work ethics and we'd like to give you a promotion and we want to put you in the office. And your new job will be answering the telephone, writing people's names down and taking orders. And I was shocking at that. I remember a guy by the name of Peter Driver come in and I couldn't even write his name down. I had to ask him how to spell Peter. He looked at me like I was stupid. So I actually quit that job before I got fired because I didn't want to I've been fired from a job.
And I think that it's possibly understandable that if someone was just to talk to you, they probably wouldn't realise that this was something you struggled with. Yeah,
even today, it's just everything is a struggle, and you're always striving to have acceptance, and you want to be part of a team, and you've got this big, massive thing. When I do quite well with my painting and decorating, I was 23 years of age, and I decided, right, it's time for me to get an education. So I went to Spelled Canterbury, and they were awesome. They put me through a test and they said, yep, you have dyslexia. And I said, so what do I do about it? How can I? And they said, well, you could hire a teacher. So I went for reading and writing lessons for a year, and I was like a 5-year-old. I had homework and I had a book, and she taught me how to sound out words, gave me a better understanding of the English language. But after a year of lessons 2 times a week, I honestly can say I come out with not really gained anything that would help me in life.
Yeah. And one of the things that some of our listeners may know is that so many entrepreneurs have dyslexia. I think about 10% of the general population have dyslexia, but about 35% of entrepreneurs have it. So what do you think makes people with dyslexia such good entrepreneurs?
I'd like to think I'm a good entrepreneur. I think, you're literally reinventing the wheel, and you can't follow regimented ways. So if somebody asks me to do something, I just make it up as I go, and I suppose that's why doing things different is always a strength.
Great. And so obviously you've had some challenges in your life, but you also had a successful travelling business, is that right?
Yeah, I owned, one of the painting jobs I had, I decided to paint a nightclub, and the guy asked me what we could do with a room over beyond, and I said, well, why don't we make it into one of those internet cafes? So, long story short, we've finished up going into business together and starting up a business called the Email Centre on Worcester Boulevard. And people used to come in and I'd ask them what they were doing and look over their shoulder, and basically I learnt enough to develop and build websites. So I decided that it would be a good idea to sell everything I own and buy a beautiful 11-inch coloured compact computer and travel around New Zealand telling people I was a mobile internet consultant. And it was quite novel. I used to knock on somebody's door. I had one of the first digital cameras that come out. I'd take a photo of their place as I was walking up the drive and then show them the photo on the back of the camera. They'd be amazed by the technology. Then I'd say, look, if I can have your brochure, I'll take the photos, I'll build you a website. It'll cost you $300 and $30 a month. And next year when I'm coming by, I'll drop in and see you and do any updates. And because of it was new and timing was perfect, people actually hired me to build their websites. And this is back in 1995.
Great. So it seems like you saw an opportunity that possibly other people didn't see.
Yeah, I did. I learnt in business it is all about timing and also having the balls to actually go out there and do something that's a wee bit different. And I really did well with that business. We're working for some big name companies at the time, like Blackwater Rafting, the Glacier Guiding Company. I still do the website for the Alpine Adventures. They've rebranded themselves now, but I was in one day. I think in a week I went in 14 different helicopters. I'd find myself landing on a glacier, taking photos. Blackwater Rafting were a really awesome company to work for. I finished up working for 45 different rental car companies, and I used to do 99% of their internet marketing. And it was really cool. My company, best year ever, I think it was 2004, I turned over $480,000, and I took home about $280,000 in my back pocket. And I realised you don't need to read and write to make money.
Fantastic. And you mentioned earlier on that you've found some ways to overcome some of these difficulties, and particularly with technology. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I've always been trying to get my words that are in my head onto a computer screen. So I've tried all types of technology, and one of the best things ever is probably Apple products, because they have built-in voice recognition software. So even when I'm texting people, because people don't realise, I can honestly say I've never read a book in my life. I've read pages of a book, I've read a chapter, but if I go away and come back to the book and start reading it again, I will actually think, I think I've read this before, and it might be exactly the same page I read half an hour ago. So now what I do is, if anyone emails me, I select all the words and I have it read to me, and then I comprehend what I'm reading. And I start to, and recently I've been listening to audiobooks and all the Richard Branson books and all those sort of people. I can now understand what it's like when people go to a movie and come out and say, I think the book was better. Because I always thought people were crazy who could get more enjoyment from reading than watching something visual.
Great. And any other apps or tools that you have that are particularly helpful?
Well, yeah, funny, this morning I went through quite a few different apps. Sort of what I'm doing now I own a business networking company, and I'm actually finding that people in business are struggling using technology. But because I've really been using so much of it in my life, I've sort of taken a lot of it for granted. So I'm actually teaching people how to use apps and the benefit of just using CRMs or anything that makes you more productive. If there's a bottleneck in your business and technology can help speed that up, then ask me because I've found a way to do it faster, and I'm just share a lot of that knowledge these days, and people are finding it much better for their businesses.
Yeah, fantastic. And so if someone's listening to this and maybe they think either they themselves have dyslexia or someone they know, what sort of help would you recommend for them?
I think sharing and talking to other people. I did my first ever keynote speech at the property investors network of people. Sorry, and a guy came up to me afterwards and he said to me, "Hey, Seth, thank you for sharing your story about dyslexia." I said, "I also have dyslexia and I've never told anybody." And he said, I've been very successful. He said he was in South Africa and he'd set up over 50 like New World supermarkets. And he said he had every time he can't do something, he'd always hire somebody, like he had his own assistant. And I just think don't be ashamed of dyslexia. It's actually it is a gift of dyslexia. I think it's actually a real bonus in a way. And I have to chuckle at some things I find so incredibly simple. I watch other people struggling with, and I've got to be quite empathetic because I struggle with why some people just can't get it. And I think the best thing with dyslexia is everything that we see is done by memory. There's nothing I can look at and sound out. So it amazes me that I do have a good memory. It's an exhausted memory, but it is a fantastic memory. But I have to memorise. So I can look at a word and I can tell you that word is not spelt correctly, but I won't be able to read that word. I can probably type it on a keyboard and get it correct. And it's just really strange how the brain works. The brain's an amazing thing. So I do honestly believe it's a gift.
Great. And you said that you did a keynote recently. Have you helped other people with dyslexia, or is that something that you want to get more involved with?
Yeah, I would do. I did hear of a local school that was struggling with getting children to attend, and I was thinking it would be quite neat to have a class or for older people who have dyslexia. I mean, I really believe that with technology, it's awesome, and I just think that some people are missing out. Like, no offence to people who are a painter and a decorator, but my stepfather was a painter and a decorator. My brother was a painter and a decorator, and my new stepfather was a painter and a decorator, and I just thought I was doomed to be a painter. And it was just so nice to be able to get away from doing manual stuff to now, these days, I work with business people and I'm well respected and I offer some really good advice and they take the advice on board and their businesses blossom.
Great. And there's some other ways that this presents itself. So, for example, would you be able to tell us the months in order?
No, it's quite ironic. I was telling somebody the other day that I don't even know the order of the months. So when people say, oh, I'm opening a new shop in September, to me, I don't know whether that's 9 months away, 2 months away. I have a gist of when it is, but I often would just say, it's really nice when they say, in 3 months' time I'll be opening, because I think of numbers, you see. Yeah. So it always makes me laugh there. But I was telling somebody the other day, I said, look, I don't know the order of the months of the year. I said, I do know the order of the days of the week, but to this day I still cannot spell all the days of the week.
Yeah. And one time you said to me you didn't know the difference between a noun or a verb.
Yeah, if it's important, I need to know.
Just as a matter of interest, no one has ever walked up to me on the street and said, I've got an emergency. I need to be able to know what a verb is. You know, it has never once happened that I've had that situation.
That's a relief.
So some things aren't that important. But you have a couple of ambitions in life to do certain things, and can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, well, I really want to help businesses. I've been... it's just, it's probably... I really like getting people together. I went through a bit of a personal journey a few years ago, and I basically lost everything, and I went through a messy divorce and blah, blah, blah. But I was incredibly lonely, and I decided that I'd stop feeling sorry for myself and get out and get involved in the community. So I decided to start up a mountain biking group, and we used to have 6 of us who used to turn up every Saturday, and we used to go biking. And then I met a friend, and I said, why don't you come along and mountain bike? Oh, I don't have a bike. So, well, you could go walking around McCain's Island. And she said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, you can take my dog. And then I decided to change the event to a mountain biking and a dog walking event, and we had 15 people turn up. And then we started organising events, potluck dinners, movie nights, hiking events, and I still do this today. And then I got involved in Rotary and Toastmasters and national speakers, and then now I really enjoy just getting people together and making them talk to each other. And I'm definitely not lonely these days.
It sounds like you've got so much on.
Yeah, well, it is funny. I remember living in Rangiora in a 1-bedroom apartment, conveniently located 10 metres from the railway line, thinking I'm just so lonely. Now my phone goes all the time, and this weekend we were going away to Lake Daniels with 10 people. We've cancelled it because of the weather, so we've turned that into a potluck dinner. And a lot of the people in my life are just awesome people, and they're really caring. They look out for each other. So it's a nice way to be now. But if you are lonely and you're battling with sadness, depression, just keep doing the motions. Get involved and go join some group. There's so many things to do. One of the best websites I've ever been to is meetup.com. And you can go on there, and if you're into knitting, you can find groups. If you're into, I don't know, Monopoly, yeah. There's a group, and get involved. And we do a lot of hiking events, and it's just been awesome.
Yeah. And when you went along, or when you set up that mountain biking group, did you have a lot of negative thoughts that was anyone going to show up and things like that?
Yeah, we only need one person, and what I found is a lot of people were in similar situations to myself. And they just, then you just sort of said, well, what are you doing after? Do you want to catch a bite to eat? And they'd go, yep, that sounds great. And we've got a real good policy too. Well, I've said to anybody that's involved in any group that I organise, we'll take, we'll take any odd bods. So we make everyone feel welcome, and there's none of this cliquey stuff where, we don't want him going or her going, I don't like them. And I say, because I work in the power of threes, as 3 good people can help one person that may be lacking in personal skills. Because I've found that a lot of people come along and people can draw a conclusion and judge people quite prematurely. But if you get to know them over 3 or 4 months, you can find that a lot of their silly things they may say or do is simply because of nerves. And once they get that fluidness going and their confidence levels are higher, then they're just different people.
Right. And on the show we've talked about the impact that loneliness has on people, and it's believed to kill more people than anything else, because at our core we are social beings. So any other tips for people that might feel lonely? Like, how would you, if they think, yes, this is something I want to do, but they think, I don't know anyone, I'm not going to fit in, what would you say to help them then?
Yeah, loneliness was massive for me. I remember I went through a hell of a divorce. I literally nearly died. I had a burst appendix, and I spent 2 weeks in hospital. I lost 9 kgs in a week, and then I come out, and I had to move out of my beautiful house in the country to this 1-bedroom apartment, and some real close friends helped me out. That was great. However, I remember sitting there thinking, I feel really bad, and I drove around the city looking for somebody to talk to, and I just didn't feel like anyone really cared that I was here. So I finished up going to my doctor, and if you're listening, Chris, I'm sorry, and I said, look, I just feel terrible, I've gone through a divorce and I have no real ambition anymore. And Chris Yee, who drives the flashiest cars known to man, said, what are you driving? And I said, a Suzuki Swift. And he said, get out of my office, go buy yourself a new car. And I went and leased a brand new R8 Holden, and it was beautiful. I couldn't really afford it, but it did put the shine back in my, it made me put the swing back in my step. And people were saying, it's good to see you back on your feet, Danny. It may sound shallow, but I think with loneliness, people get it mixed up with depression.
Yeah.
And I really honestly believe that sometimes you just need to surround yourself with the right type of people and just keep doing the grind. Just keep moving forward. Don't sit there on the sofa thinking, this is no good. Just keep doing the motions until you get that spark and that smile back in your step.
Right. And finally, I believe you want to write a book one day?
Yeah, dyslexic person. It'll be the first book I ever read, probably. I've had a few. I do like... I love doing public speaking, and I have quite a few interesting stories, and I figured that one day I might be enticed to write a book. It's more about the struggle with dyslexia and my love for being an entrepreneur and business. I mean, I love being a business person. I'm so proud of myself that I haven't worked for a boss for 20 years. And when I left school at 14, I thought I was just doomed. All I wanted to do was get a job so I could earn some money, so I could buy some nice things.
Great. Well, when the book comes out, I look forward to reading it. Danny, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you.
Take care.
When the nights get cold and the lights go out, the sun is gone behind the clouds, and you feel lost, and I'll reach out to guide you home.